Hello and welcome to another Blender Sushi live noding session. Today we'll take you through the area that might be hidden inside animation nodes. Um, it's kind of almost hidden inside Blender as well. You can the topic will be covered is pen weighting, using a vertex weighting to influence um, instances or other objects in Blender. Normally, you want to do this using particles and instance objects. However, we will be doing it procedurally using animation nodes, and you will see that it's much more controllable somewhat. And yeah, let's just get started. So we started with this default scene again. I totally didn't plan this, but I'll just quickly jump into it. So we have the default cube, we can leave it there. We probably want to create a grid. Alt G, scale it up. I like using grid because grid comes with a, how many points is this? 81 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, like 81 points or vertices. And since we'll be dealing with instances, vertices is the easiest to understand for now. And we're gonna instance probably some boxes or some icosphere on each vertices. We will not be using particles yet. We're just gonna be using animation nodes, so switch to compositing. And let's create a new node 3. We can use template actually, but we can also start from scratch. It doesn't matter. It should be simple concept, and it should be documented as well. But yeah, let's just do it like this. It's easier to show. So we have our grid. Probably I'll turn on the edges, wire, draw all edges, and we're gonna instance copy on each point. Let's save this real quick. BlenderSushi, animation nodes, pane, weighting. Let's create mesh data from object. It's gonna be our grid, and we will instance that guy. So let's instancer, object instancer. We're gonna copy from source, our source, the icosphere. We don't know how many instances yet, but we will find out soon. So like usual, object mesh data, this is our template points. While holding this node, tap on W, and we can loop through vertex locations, but we want vertices because vertices can give you the group weight. I kind of mentioned it in previous video, so we will see. We can actually see the weighting for each point. So vertices went inside vertex list, and we're gonna loop each and every point or vertex. And as usual, we're gonna create vertex info node, plug it in. That's group weights right here. That's our main topic for today. Let's debug. See, as you can see, it's a kind of transparent purple. That means it's got some data, like a list of data. So if we debug loop and plug it in, don't be surprised with what you see. It's actually empty, right? Blank. And it's actually list. It's not like a normal just normal value. It's a list within a list, so you have to be careful with that. Let's save this, and we're gonna give it some weight. And as you know, if you use Blender bone or skeleton and start weighting each bone into the points, you will be using this part of Blender. So it's actually under this guy, not vertex colors, it's vertex group or VG. It's blank at the moment. I believe if we just jump into the weight painting and start painting, see, it creates a group for you, and you start to see the numbers coming in into this list. Yeah, so blue means 0, means there's no weighting applied. Red means everything it's at its maximum, which is value of 1. So for every points you will get a value of weight. And yeah, you can use the paint weights just like normally. You can smooth it and stuff. In other 3D package, normally you hold shift to smooth it, but in Blender you kind of need to use the number, like the number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, no, up to 8. So you can, what you will use probably the draw, which is 4, and then you have subtract, which is 8, 4 and 8, subtracting, and you might want to use blur, which is number 2. So 2, 4 and 8, those 3 are super useful. Blur can blend it for you. You can use your Wacom tablet as well, with like a pressure sensitive tablet to paint this. And in context of animation nodes, you can use this value to drive anything, basically anything, but for now we will let it drive the maybe the scale of our instance objects. So let's see, normalize all. Sometimes the value goes over 1, I think, so you need to normalize the value time to time. But for basically to have like a safe number, it needs to be, the weighting needs to be between 0 and 1. All right, so we have our template and we have our weighting painted randomly. So this is our template grid, and so we want to create instances, and we already have our object instancer with some like bunch of copies. We don't know how many copies, but of course we know now, because we're using this template, we need to get a total number of points. Search get length, get list length, and you can plug in vertex location, and with the length it will give you the total value of points template, and the object needs to go in, and we need to iterate, so we click on new iterator, object list, and let's plug this in. Alright, so we need another node, object transform output, and of course we want to place our instance first. We need the locations, so the object goes in there. For the location, we can use the location of the vertex in so we have our icosphere, and we have our cube. Let's get rid of the cube. move it to the side. So that's our original icosphere. We can move it to layer number 2 so we don't need to see it. Let's save it again. So now we have our pen weight as a list inside a list like this, and we want to plug it in into the scale of our instances. You might think, okay, I'll just plug in the group weight into that thing. Okay, it doesn't actually work because they have different color, purple, transparent purple into blue vector. So sometimes you can, and animation nodes will try to create another like converter node, but in this case it doesn't do it. So maybe we can use get the element of the list element, get list element. Let's see if this works. List, okay, list goes inside it and element goes there. Okay, it works. Okay, since it's already, we are inside a loop right here, so it's, you see it's got a different color nodes. It's already inside the loop, and we actually need index, the first index, which is in the first element, which is index number 0 of each list. If you can see here, from, because we actually in Blender you can have a multiple group weight, not just a single group weight. So let's just hide all those lines for now. Relationship lines, yep, hide it. Like this. Actually, if you have the left and right panel, just remember N and T. NT is the shortcut to hide it. NT, like Windows NT. And yep, we want to hide it. So it's already working now, but I will explain something. See the from vertex info, because like I said, we can have multiple group weighting, and so when it comes from this mesh template and goes into this vertex and it iterates through each vertices using this vertex info, it will come like this, list inside list, and sometimes you just want the actual value. So compare this output to this guy right here. Now you see you have another list and you have different value, you have the value and list within list. This can be confusing, but for now basically you can have multiple vertex groups, and just be careful on that. And I'll just get rid of this group. It should reset. Maybe it's still keeping the value, but now you're basically getting this value, not the one inside the bracket. That's another list of value that you can work with. So we have this, and then as you can see it's already working. If you go back to the weight pane, you can continue painting. 2, 4, 8. 4, you can add it. 8, you can subtract. This is really good. You can use this to kind of for, as if you're a layout artist in 3D and you want to lay out some trees or bushes or whatever, you will use this until you get the right size of trees, or you kind of want to randomize all this. At the moment it's just grid, but later on you might want to use maybe particles just to scatter the points, or procedurally create your own points on top of the surfaces, and then you start painting like this. This is really useful and fun, and you probably never touched this or never thought that this is possible in Blender. Of course you can, and normally you will use particles, and it can be a little bit complicated to go inside particles and finding all the right, turn on the right parameters. And you can use there's like a vertex weight editing, mixing with proximity, etc. And they're related to dynamic paint simulations right there. I might touch that in a bit. For now, let's try all this. Invert. You might be, you've been using Blender for a while. You might never use the weighting, but I think I love the weighting in Blender, and I love vertex paint inside Blender. They are really useful, and for procedural workflow, they are really you're gonna use this a lot, even in other packages like Houdini. Yeah, you can invert it, you can mirror it. If it's a character, you want to mirror left and right. Normalize, quantize level. There's even the weight gradient, transfer weight. Transfer weight is interesting. Yeah, let's save this. So we have that going on. But another interesting thing I can show you today will be the dynamic paint. Yeah, so dynamic paint is really powerful in Blender, and that's kind of, I think in Cinema 4D MoGraph you have something called a reactor. Yeah, maybe you can comment and correct me if I'm wrong. But with reactor, you can influence the instances using another object. And with Blender, inside Blender, you have dynamic paints, and dynamic paints normally work equally powerful using particles, although the particle is still kind of limited, and we are still waiting for the node-based particle. I believe sometimes, I don't know, just wait for that. For now, you can already use dynamic paints and animation nodes and object instances, so it's really powerful. Instead of painting it, like, see, like all this, the weight paint is manually painted, and they're pretty much passive. But with dynamic paint, you can kind of simulate the paint weight over time. Let's see how that works. So let's see how we can set it up. So we can, let's see if I delete this. No, it's cool, it doesn't crash. Blender is pretty stable. It almost never crashes on me, but time to time, 1% of time it's still gonna crash, but don't worry, it will save it. Okay, dynamic paint. So with dynamic paint, you basically will have the canvas and another object as like a brush. Really simple. The canvas is where you want to paint with, basically, and the brush will do the painting, and you can see it in real time. Dynamic paint, canvas or brush. This is our grid is going to be the canvas. Add canvas. It create all this automatically for you. We need to do a couple of things, probably. Format, image sequence of, it's going to be a vertex. Anti-aliasing or not, up to you. Start and end frames. Substeps if you want to have a subframes. Surface type. Now this is the important part. We want it to be weight, not displace or wave or other. It's gonna be weight for now. It turns blue because it's at the moment all the points or vertices has the 0 weighting by default. And let's see what else. We need to turn this on. DP, dynamic pane weight. It's kind of telling you, you need to have this. So click on the plus button. Now, if we look underneath this, we can see DP weight. Now, in order to give the weighting in real time, we need to have dynamic pane, brush, add brush. That's the default. Mesh volume, proximity, all these options for you. Try each one of them. You can use to how the brush will actually react to this guy. Yeah, at the moment you can already see it's doing something. Normally I like to make my brush to be just wire so I can see through inside it. You can have multiple brush, and I do that sometimes, and you can have like a really complex looking effects. See, it's pane weighting in real time, giving a value of 1 and transferring it into this canvas objects. So let's see, the brush mesh, instead of mesh volume you can play around with proximity as well. Proximity, pane distance can be more over 1, and play around with this fall off, all this velocity. Try, they might work with the weighting, or maybe they might not, but try anyway. Proximity, I like to have mesh volume and proximity. Particle system, if you create particle system for this cube and then have particles falling, you can paint that way. And yeah, let's give it a try. So you have this working already. And you might ask, hey, why are not seeing anything? We don't see the instance. What's happening? You might need I might forget to turn on something. Use modifiers. Yeah, because dynamic paint is a modifier, and it's currently live on this grid object. You need to turn it on so animation nodes can use this additional information. Use modifier. Now you can see it's working. And if you move the brush object, it will paint, and this is real time. This is really super cool. You can scale it. It works beautifully, and it's interactive as well. I'm using an old MacBook, so it's pretty slow, and this is like 6 years old MacBook. If you have new computer, this should be super fast, especially if you have nice graphic card. And file, save, cool. You can animate. Let's try if I animate this. So hide this guy. Oh, but we need a timeline. It's okay. We can do this. Hide this. We don't need this guy. No. So we have 250 frames by default, and I is the hotkey for keyframing. And for this kind of thing, for this demo, I just use keyframes, the location, rotation, and scale, and then I'll make it traveling to the other side like that. Keyframe. And then let's have a look. Play back our timeline. Oh, it's super slow. Let's just scrub it. So it's already doing it, and you can see it's actually caching. It cached the informations in real time. So instead of, if it's on frame 1, you can kind of test it and it's not caching anything. But if it's animating, it will cache the data over time. So it's kind of like you pouring the weight over time, and it will keeps the value like that. And there is a cool trick in the modifier. If you select that grid with dynamic pane, live dynamic pane, you can use vertex weight edit. I believe it's edit, and you can specify current weight, and you can use thing like random. So the random, we have like a built-in random in there. So there's a lot in here, even like a texture mask. You might be able to use texture as well, influencing our instances. Yeah, that's actually, I never tried that, but try that and be surprised. This we have this guy going on. There's actually an option that I like as well. If it's a traveling wave, you might want to fade it like 40 frames, fade in 40 frames. So if we have our brush traveling, it will, you see it's painting the weight, but over time the weight will goes back to 0. So you have this really cool kind of swimming effect. Maybe I should give the fade like a higher number, 70. Turn off the slow. Let's do this again. With a fast computer, this is really fast. But in a complex simulations or complex setup, you will want to cache it anyway. So you want to bake all dynamics and wait for a few seconds, let it calculate everything, put it into a cache, and after you have the cache and then play it back, it's gonna be real time. It should be real time. Yeah, that's something you have to know. Playback. It's real time. It's 10 seconds, so it's slow, but it's cached already, so you can scrub it back and forth. Yeah, so this is basically what I wanted to show you today, and give it a try anyway and see what you can come out with. You're not limited to grid. You can use anything, any of this, or your own mesh, whatever. Maybe even like probably points. I'm not sure if you can paint points of particles in Blender yet, but maybe it needs to be a mesh, but you can work around those. And so yeah, you should be able to use animation nodes to read the pane weight, the weighting, the vertex weight of a mesh, and instance some objects and scale it, or I don't know, give it a try. You instead of scale, you might want to do something else. Maybe it's a rig, maybe it's an animated rig, or yeah, anything you can think of. So hopefully this video tutorial is useful for you.